Hello, and thank you for tuning into the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak, and we have a special guest today. Well, I have a special guest today. It's actually my beautiful bride, Deloris. Hi, Dolores.
Hello.
She has volunteered to be a victim, a guest on the show. Um, I said victim.
Yeah, I picked up on that.
No, actually, she volunteered. She was like, "Hey, I want to do the podcast with you and talk about our trip." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds like a great
Trip
idea."
with an S.
Trip,
Trips.
trips,
Trips.
trips. So we've taken a couple of trips here. Most recently, we just got back from New Orleans for a friend of ours' son's wedding, and it was a beautiful trip. Um, I gotta say, I was weirdly impressed with how the city has cleaned up since Katrina. I mean, obviously, when you saw what happened to New Orleans during Katrina, it looked devastating, but
Yeah,
um,
I have not. You had never been.
I'd never been. It was my first time going to New Orleans to see that area.
I went in the 80s, two different times in the, I guess, latter 80s when I saw what 2005 is when
Yeah,
Katrina hits. We looked that up.
yeah.
I did not expect the city to look as good as it did. I mean, it to me, I didn't see any. I mean, of course, now, mind you, 2005, it's been what, almost 20 years since Katrina hit.
Almost 20 years, yeah.
Um, I
18.
didn't I didn't see anything. I mean, when we saw all the devastation of the pictures, of the damages, I didn't think it would ever recover or it would. But then again, it has been almost 20 years.
Yeah. Well, everything does change and, people adapt and they overcome and that sort of thing. And I mean, I guess it's sort of a testament to the people who live there who are like, no, this is our home and we're going to rebuild.
Yeah, but
And
I
they
mean,
did.
even the old, there's a lot of beautiful older um, buildings there and just some beautiful architectural
Yeah.
buildings. And those all looked the exact same that I remember them looking in the latter 80s.
Yeah.
It
I
is
wonder.
really, it really is it's a city that everybody says, oh, I wouldn't live there. And it's too big of a city for me to want to live in, but it is one of the most beautiful cities. To me, it is a mixture of Charleston and Savannah,
Yeah.
just way bigger. There to me it is, it seems like it is. I mean, and don't get me wrong, the French Quarter area, Bourbon Street, where there's nothing but bar after bar, it does have a smell to it, but it's not bad. I mean, it's not a place I would want to be at dark, but
Hmm.
during the day it is actually not it's actually very enjoyable to have something to drink and just walk up and down the street and hear the different music and see the different people. I mean, I thought all of that was very enjoyable.
Yeah. I liked how just about every place that we come in contact with had music coming out of it.
Yes.
I did notice that a few of them would have a person at the door and there was a sign that says like 2 drink minimum because they got to pay the band
Right. They don't want people just
just hanging
browsing.
out.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in that area,
Yeah.
but it's also very close. The French Quarter area, the Bourbon Street area is very close to Jackson Square,
Hmm.
which is the beautiful old cathedral. I think we read that it is like the oldest
The
cathedral.
oldest still in service
That's
cathedral,
right.
nonstop service since the 1800s.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
actually it's the oldest cathedral in the United States that still has working services. They still
Regular
have mass
services.
there and everything.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. I don't remember going in that cathedral in the 80s, and but I'm glad we stopped and saw it.
Yeah. Yeah. We took lots of photos and we, had the idea of putting together a compilation for YouTube. And I got to tell you, I was looking at the photos that we took and looking through them. I was just like, I don't know how to tell a story with what we took photos of. I mean, we had a great time. We got to see lots of architecture. We had a good time going up and down Charles Street on the rail car
Yeah, that
and
was fun.
seeing the architecture there and just the fun of like looking at all of the beautiful homes there and Zillowing how many millions of dollars they were worth. I
Yeah.
mean, it was pretty incredible.
Well,
Um,
I guess we could talk about how to do some YouTube videos. I mean, you could probably
yeah,
break it up into some smaller ones. The weather was perfect. It was extremely
yeah,
warm, which I guess if I had to choose between hot or rainy and sloshing around in water, I would take the heat any day.
yeah,
So we didn't have the rain did not, no rain. So we had beautiful sunny days. There is some just the most amazing food ever. I mean, we knew going in that we had done some research on food, and it is by far some of the best food. You could go to that city just like you can New York and make it a different trip every time
Yeah.
by doing focusing on the museums. I did notice several things that they have built since I was there in the 80s. They have a really nice Riverwalk area. We didn't even get to go to that. We didn't
Hmm.
have time for that. That looked extremely nice. That was not there in the 80s. They
The
have the
aquarium.
aquarium
Yeah.
that we didn't. All of that whole area down there next to the Mississippi River looked extremely. That's all new, and it's really pretty.
And we did hear the lady say on one of the bus tours that the river constantly wants to change and constantly wants to, dictate its own path. And because they have businesses and homes and stuff of that nature, they've gone through extraneous lengths to try to keep the Mississippi somewhat stable as far as where the water goes.
So they've built what? It's the river wall. It's like a wall.
They call it the Crescent Moon River Walk, and it's basically meant to withstand the water changing right there near where Cafe Du Monde is, and a lot of the church that we were talking
Yeah.
about is right across the street at the Jackson Square. But it's amazing to know how much history is involved with the Mississippi River, how much trade has actually happened on that river, how much it has sort of been the backbone of America. They always talk about New York being the first city and Chicago being the second. Well, if that's true, then New Orleans have been the third because that trade traffic coming from Chicago to New Orleans is a huge part of why that exists as a city. It's that trade route. Obviously first established by the French and somewhat culminated between the French, the Indians, and the inhabitants that were there before. Um, they just kept growing. And we heard about how they had a hard time populating the area for a while. So they sent a lot of slaves, or a lot of, not slaves, a lot of people from prisons, from the French prisons, and emptied them out and said, "Here, we're going to give you some land. You go establish your life there."
Well, I actually took a picture when we were down toward the river. Actually, it was right out from Cafe
Dumont.
Du Monde. It said it's a historical plaque,
Hmm.
and it read New Orleans first sighted as Indian portage to Lake Pontchartrain and the Gulf in 1699. So it was called the Crescent City because of the location in the bend of the Mississippi River.
Hmm. Yeah, because the delta, the water comes down and then it sort of curves at a weird point
Yeah, if
there.
you actually look at that on a map, I mean, there's a lot of twists and turns right
Hmm.
there in the Mississippi River.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I say, it was we had a really good experience with our VRBO, which was an older apartment, looked like an older apartment building. It was what,
Yeah.
four floors, 5 floors,
I think it was five
five
floors. We
floors.
were on the
Yep,
fourth.
that's right. That's right. That somebody had spent a lot of money refurbishing it, and
Yeah.
it looked amazing. Never, people say that that city is not safe. I disagree with that. You have to do a little bit of research, which we did. We did some research ahead of time with VRBOs, you can see almost the exact location, neighborhood. We had extremely secure parking that was gated to get in and out. I never one time felt unsafe at night while we were staying overnight. Our rental car, I felt all of that was extremely secure.
Yeah, but we also stayed in a really secure place. I noticed as the night got darker and the alcohol started flowing a little more, the danger level went up a little bit. And that's kind of true of a lot of big cities whenever you get a lot of people around, but also New Orleans is known as kind of a party town. Um, you
But you
know,
can still go to a town like that and have a good time if you do some research.
yeah,
To me, the internet makes information so available that you should do research on where you're going.
yeah,
It's just it's something that should be a safety thing that you do ahead of time.
yeah,
And I think that we did that. I mean, we researched our place, our address, the neighborhood. We researched, food, tours, different things like that. There's so much available nowadays as far as information through the internet that you can have a whole trip planned before you even get there.
yeah. It also helps that if you travel in groups together, there is strength in numbers, and it's good to know where you're going, have a plan, be in that mindset. Just be aware that there are a lot of people down there dealing with extreme poverty, and with that comes a lot of people just randomly coming up to you, wanting to hand you things. Don't take it because they expect money for it. That
But
kind of
that's
goes with
almost
just
in
about
any,
everywhere you go
yeah, that's any
nowadays.
touristy type
Um,
city. I would think it would be the same way in, it is the same way in New York, Las Vegas.
yeah. I mean, I was wearing some old tennis shoes, and I must have had what, six people come
Yeah.
up to me and going, "Hey, man, nice shoes," and I'm like, "Nope, nope, no, thank you," because I know they're trying to sell me on something, and I don't really want to do any of that stuff. I was there for the experience, and I had the experience. We
I,
did have a good time eating
yes,
lots of
I would hate for
great
somebody
food.
not to go visit that city because of the things that you hear about the French Quarter,
Yeah,
about Bourbon Street. It is not, that city is not all about Bourbon Street.
right.
There is just the beautiful live oaks there. It is like we all referred to it while we were there. It is Savannah. It's a mix of Savannah and Charleston, but just 100 times bigger.
Yeah. Well, Savannah's a different story altogether because Savannah's been more commercialized. There is still a lot of Charleston that we haven't seen because it is a lot like this right here. But you know, I work in the food service industry, so of course I'm watching around to see how in the world people are making deliveries with their food trucks. And I did see a few food trucks going around. They were a lot smaller. They had lift gates on the back, and I'm assuming they have to do most of their deliveries between like 3 in the morning and 7 in the morning.
Yeah, I'm
Just
sure.
blitz of trucks going in all directions trying to get people food and get off the streets before it gets real busy. But I guess that's kind of the stakes no matter where you go in a busy area like that. Um, I'm glad we went to Cafe Du Monde and had some original beignets
Oh
from
yeah.
them.
Now
Um,
that had not changed at all since the 80s, the latter 80s when I was there.
it's weird how, like you were talking about, you inside and the people that were servicing us outside, the waiters, actually went inside and placed the order and paid for it
Yes.
inside, and then they came out and they got paid by us. So it's a weird, almost like a freelance type waiter system, where the inside is just constantly cranking them out, and it's really up to the waiters to take it on themselves to wait your table, and if they want to make money, they can. With them open 24 hours a day, I'm not exactly sure how that's monitored or how that's employed,
Yeah,
but
and I think we actually seen while we were there, didn't we look it up while we were there, how long they have actually been open?
it's over 160 years, I
It's
think.
been a really long time.
Yeah.
That was one of the things. It is opened 24 hours a day. It was established in 1862, so it has been in business for 161 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's great though. It is some great live musicians playing, and I'm not really sure if that was for the actual establishment as much as it was maybe just
I think
they just set up right there because they know it's so
I
busy.
think it's one of those things where street corners, I would imagine for a performer, you have to have a license
More than
like most
likely, you
places
have
do
to have a
now.
business license, I'm
And
sure.
so that's probably one of the premier spots that people want. So it's probably one of those things where they have to bid on it and get their name in and be able to be approved to be playing there, and they have to do it for a certain amount of time, and then they have to clean up and have somebody
Yeah.
else come in. And
But I mean, it was really the couple times we walked by there that there were street performers on that corner.
yeah,
They were really good.
I doubt they're paid by the restaurant itself. I think that's mainly just
Yeah, I
them
don't think so
hoping to
either.
get people to
Yeah.
tip them.
Now, I think the one that we ate lunch at, where we had the crawfish
Yeah, because they were
beignets,
inside the
they were inside
establishment.
the establishment, although it was an open air. The outer part of it was outdoors
Yeah,
where we were sitting. We were sitting under like a what do you call it? A portache, however you say that word. It was a covered seating area, and that band was out
the Market Cafe.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was down from the other place, and
yeah.
the food was really good. The music was amazing.
Well, and we had something different there. We had heard about savory beignets, and so we were like, "Well, what's a savory beignet? I mean, I get the sweet part, but what's a savory?" And we ordered it, and was pleasantly surprised. It had crawfish and remoulade, and I don't know, it was really, really good.
That's where we drank. That's where I drank the Louisiana lemonade, which was very good, very
Very
strong.
sweet.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I wouldn't say it was super sweet,
It just tasted like lemonade.
but it's don't want to drink very many of those in a row.
Yeah. And then we also had beignets from another place,
Cafe beignet.
Cafe Beignet.
That was
Um,
good.
they were a little bit different. I liked how clean the restaurant was. I mean, because
Yes.
Cafe Du Monde was outside, and you're covered, but you're still in the heat and the humidity. Whereas
And powdered
and
sugar
powdered sugar
everywhere.
everywhere. I don't know when they ever get a chance to clean, unless it's the middle of the night. They hose everything down when there's nobody in the restaurant. But um, yeah, Cafe Beignet was extremely clean. Air conditioner worked really great.
Yes.
It was kind of nice to get out of the heat and just take a break. And they had a little thing set up in the front there for musicians as well. I think we got there right in between them changing shifts
Yeah,
for
I'm not sure.
musicians.
We weren't in that cafe very long.
But
I enjoyed the market. Kind of, it's very reminiscent of the market, that area in Charleston,
yeah,
with the vendors. I love just shopping, browsing through the local vendors. Actually, I think all of us might have, or I know I purchased a couple of little things from local vendors, because I do bring back some little goodies for some of the girls that I work with when I go on when I just about every trip I go on. And I try hard to do something very unique and specific to the area or the city that we visited.
yeah.
So this was a local person. That's why I do like to do the little vendor flea market. It's not really flea market. I'm not really sure exactly how to explain it, but like I said, it's
It's
a lot
kind of
like
like
the.
a flea market.
I guess it kind of is.
But they have some people there like doing their own craft stuff. Like we saw the guy who he said that his wife takes really interesting photos
Yeah.
of posters and news
So
clippings
I
and
guess
then
that would be it. Would
he
It's
makes it
more
into
like a
little
vendor.
coasters
Yeah,
and yeah.
vendors that do like local
Yeah.
vendors that do their arts and crafts.
Hmm.
And I
I
actually
saw people
purchased.
there making belts
Yes.
like from scratch. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, pretty neat stuff. And plenty of opportunities to get some genuine Creole food that are people are cooking right there. Possibly a little bit cheaper than you could get it from going to a restaurant.
Yeah.
As well as any kind of drink that you could ask for is available along there. And a lot of places they discourage having open containers walking around. Here, it's actually encouraged. No, 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 have a drink, walk around, it's fine. Um, so no, as long as everybody polices themselves and doesn't act crazy, then it's all fine. And we had a good time.
Yeah. Do you remember when we were on the tour, the hop on hop off tour that we did? Do you remember the lady telling us the difference between Cajun and Creole?
I think she said that the Creole um, more or less assimilated into the American culture a little better and learned English and was willing to assimilate. They tended to be more of the educated, whereas the
The
Cajun
Cajun.
was more farm and blue collar workers, and they stuck to their French roots a little
Yes.
more.
Yes.
They refused to learn the language, and to this day, apparently they speak an old style English that or an old style French that even is undistinguishable between French today. They were saying that their version of French is like a 16th century French.
Yeah.
Um,
Creole was considered more higher class, more or
yeah,
less, is how kind of how it got its the difference in it, where Cajun was more of the locals, the local farmers, and
but also really good food from both because it
yes,
is heavily French influenced, but also influenced by the area they were living in. So dealing with extreme poverty and with a lot of people moving to the area and it being a port city, they pretty much adapted everybody's culture and also, the local cuisine of what's around. So
and not
a lot of
all,
good
and
food.
a lot of people think when you hear Cajun or Creole food, you think automatic spicy, and if you don't, and I'm not, I don't necessarily eat a lot of super spicy food, but Cajun and Creole does not necessarily mean that. It is a Some of it can be. We eat, I personally eat some of the best red beans and rice I've ever had. I mean,
Yeah.
just absolutely amazing.
Shout out to Joey K's.
Yeah,
Or
that
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 was
was
really, really good.
really good food.
We had seen them I think you saw them on a TikTok originally,
I
right?
did.
Yeah.
Actually, TikTok is what helped me pick a lot of places that we ate at.
Yeah. So there's people that are making TikToks going around in their city going, if you're going to try this, you got to come here. And listen, a lot of people want to give TikTok crap about, oh, it's just stupid. It's this, it's that. Listen, this is very helpful.
It was.
We actually were looking it up, and Joey K's is actually on the list for Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives is like one of the top places to go. That and the place that we had breakfast at, Elizabeth's,
Elizabeth, that was
that
really
was
good.
really good.
Yeah.
So I mean, even the chicken wing place,
Yeah.
Jay's Wings, did not expect to drive alongside the freeway and suddenly find shipping containers turned into a restaurant. but the chicken wings were on point. They were
Yeah.
really,
I actually
really
saw that one
delicious.
on TikTok also.
Yeah.
So, yep, it was really good. It was a good trip, really good trip. Our flights out and back were super easy. I'm all down for an hour flight.
Yeah.
That's what normally that's a I think we had actually looked at it and it was a 14-hour drive from here, and we drove over to Columbia and flew an hour to Atlanta and then an hour to New Orleans, and that's definitely the way to do it. An hour is perfect on a plane.
Yeah. Because it's just enough time for you to get settled, think, all right, here we are. We're taking off. Let me just take a deep breath. And if you want to take a nap, you can. If you want to, listen to a podcast or watch a little bit of something on the TV, you can. But about the time you get comfortable, they go, and we're starting to make our approach. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
thank good. Yes, great.
Well,
Awesome.
for taking, for getting seated and then getting off the plane, about an hour and a half, hour 40, that's not too bad to have to sit still.
Yeah.
It's when you start getting into those 4 and 5 hour flights that it's harder to sit still for that long.
Yeah. And, luckily technology's gotten to where we can watch things on the plane, at times to keep ourselves preoccupied. Speaking of which, we had just gotten back from another trip. We had gone to Sandals, St. Lucia,
Yeah.
and that was quite a bit longer. What was it, 4.5, 5 hours
I want to
in the
say we
air?
flew from Columbia to Atlanta and then from Atlanta straight to St. Lucia. Yeah, it was a good almost 5 hour flight.
Yeah, 5 hours is a bit much on a
Yeah.
plane. But it's tolerable. Like, there's things to do on a plane, and you also, now have entertainment available on the little screen ahead of you. And I noticed going to there, I was having trouble with my screen, and I just had probably the one screen on the whole plane that the buttons wouldn't work. I kept having to push it and going, come on, do something. So that was a little aggravating. But coming back, I had one that worked pretty well, and that helped pass the time.
But now we have all the other streaming technology with Disney Plus
Yep.
and HBO
And
Go,
you downloaded some stuff onto your
Netflix. I actually
phone.
downloaded 2 seasons of a show that I had never seen before on from Netflix and watched it. I actually watched every bit. That's what I did the whole flights there and back.
What was the name of it?
What was the name of it? Firefly Lane.
Firefly Lane.
Very
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
I
I'd heard about
thoroughly
it.
and thoroughly enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
And I'm not much of a TV watcher, but for somehow I just decided to watch that, and it was very entertaining for the flights.
Yeah. So I wish I'd have downloaded some stuff onto my device, but I didn't do that for that flight. I actually downloaded some podcasts, but I found myself watching movies on the plane, and that seemed to pass the time okay. So I was like,
Well, the
I'm
good thing
okay
I
with
like
that.
about it is once you watch them, they delete, so you don't have to worry with that eating up your storage once you've watched it.
On Netflix, maybe.
And Netflix will. Netflix
Um,
actually, you once you watch it, it will delete
so
automatically.
for our trip to New Orleans, I used the Disney app to download the latest episode of Ahsoka,
Hmm.
episode 5, which was supposed to be this dynamite episode. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. And I downloaded it on my phone, and I couldn't wait to watch it. So when we took off, I watched it right away, and I looked back, and I've still got it on there, so I watched it again
Yeah.
on my phone.
Well, with Netflix, it automatically deletes.
Yeah,
So,
so I got to figure out how to clear up storage on that.
but now I
But
know that you on one of your other podcasts when we first came back from St. Lucia, you talked a little bit about whole
our fiasco with
our
the airline,
fiasco with the airline.
yeah,
Although I understand things happen,
things happen. And listen, you and I were both frustrated by losing our luggage on the way there, and how we were like, we don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to get our clothes? Are they going to be lost forever?
plus we had already it's something like that happens after you've been traveling all day.
Yeah,
So we had been up since I think that was the trip that we
we
got
got
up
up at
at
like
like 3
3:30,
in the morning
something
and
like that.
drove over to Columbia. Then we didn't find out until what 3 o'clock in the afternoon once we got through customs and everything that our luggage had been still sitting in Atlanta.
Yeah,
I mean, I will have to say I'm not the I wigged out. I had like a little tiny meltdown.
you had a meltdown, that's for sure. But I did hear the lady clearly say, "Don't worry about it. Just go shopping, and we'll reimburse you as long as it's up to a certain amount." And I was like,
But
"Is that right?"
I was very skeptical
I
of
was
that.
skeptical too, but I gotta say, Delta actually came through and reimbursed
That's why I
us.
wanted to talk about it. I wanted you
Um,
to give an update that we did get our money back from Delta.
so they all this was set up originally through my wife's email and through her booking our flights and stuff like that. But when she had the little meltdown in the airport, she wasn't available to help them. So I put down my information and I said, I'll take care of this. Just let me know and I'll figure it out. And so I worked with them. I sent them my information. They contacted me and I went through all the steps, sent them all the stuff they need. By then, you were clear enough to help me send in a receipt for the stuff that we had spent. And
Well,
even
I
still,
panicked when we got back because when we flew back in, not really panicked, but I had my doubts as to whether or not they would pay because when we flew out on a Saturday, the luggage got lost on a Saturday. We did not fly back until the next Saturday. And by the time we landed at like 11:30 at night in Columbia, we drove home. We were so exhausted at that point that we went straight to bed. And when Sunday afternoon, whenever we're doing laundry and all that kind of stuff, I sit down in front of the computer with the paperwork that the lady gave you in the St. Lucia airport. It plainly says that you only have 7 days to file this claim. And I'm thinking, we just got home late last night. Our seventh day is actually up. So I was very skeptical as to whether or not they would
yeah,
pay. Plus, I had also heard from other people that they had lost luggage before. Uh, Somebody that I work with actually flew to, I think it was Italy this summer, and their luggage got lost for 4 days. And they were told, and I did not ask during that conversation, I did not ask what airline they flew. And I still to this day don't know what airline they flew, but that person said that they got reimbursed about $200. So I was thinking, okay, we spent 1,000 buying clothes, and don't get me wrong, we are not spoiled, rotten brats that has to spend that kind of money. We had no choice
yeah,
because there was nothing, nowhere to shop except for the resort. Uh, what do you call it? The resort
shop,
shop.
the gift shop.
The gift shop. That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Gift shop.
Yeah,
And their clothes were, marked up probably 400 or 500%. It was ridiculous, the prices, because
yeah.
we got the bare minimum that we needed. Although this gift shop did not sell underclothes.
But they also didn't sell bare minimum anything. It was all like top class
Yes, I mean,
Tommy Bahama this,
we
Tommy
would have
Bahama
never
that.
spent that kind of money had we.
Yeah,
Of course, the one way I kept looking at it after the fact was it's $1,000. There's absolutely nothing we can do about it now. And I had already come to terms with the fact that they probably weren't going to pay us back. And even if we just got some of our money back, that was better than nothing.
yeah,
Because at least we did get items that you and I both have already worn again and will probably continue to wear.
yeah,
So we were, I was like, okay, just let it go. It's $1,000. But I was extremely shocked whenever we did get every single penny that we spent back from Delta. So I was very, very happy with that.
yeah. And I gotta say that even the resort tried to help out a little bit. They gave us a 10%
Yeah.
discount, on top of everything, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're spending $1,000, that was after the discount. So I mean, it would have been $1,400. So
Yeah.
that was a huge help as well. But I again was very surprised that Delta actually did the right thing. Um, I was really like you. I was hesitant they would do
Yeah.
anything at all. But that's why, also when we were picking, clothes to wear, I was like, well, I'm going to pick something I'm going to wear regardless. So if this is me spending this money, then I'll at least be okay with my purchase. Would I have bought those things on the outside without that incident happening? Probably not.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Me also.
but I will say that the bathing suit you got is fantastic, and the couple of shirts I got, I love.
Yeah.
They're great
We've
shirts.
both worn them again since then, and we will continue to. So
Yep.
I'm happy with that. To the point that our next trip, I know the last two times, I want to say the last 3 times I have 3 of the 4 times that I have flown this year, I have actually drove to I've actually flown out of Columbia, South Carolina, as opposed to driving to Charlotte. And
And flew with Delta.
flew with Delta. And I will have to say that that is going to be my first go to from here on out.
Yeah.
I much prefer the Columbia Airport. It's smaller. It has fantastic covered parking that is not 40 miles away. Charlotte has just gotten to be
So big.
so big. and so unorganized. And I'm not sure if it's because I've heard that they are expanding. So I know construction messes things up, but it has just gotten to be more confusing. Now, we don't drive into Atlanta. We did a couple, it's been a while back. I think it was 2015. We drove from here to Atlanta so that we could fly nonstop to Hawaii. And I don't remember us having any issues there other than the fact that we had to park a really long way away from the airport. And that was the only thing. But now Charlotte has gotten that way. Charlotte has gotten to where it is an extremely long drive or waiting on a shuttle bus to pick you up from long-term parking because they've just run out of space up next to the airport. Where Columbia is not that way. I mean, to me, we don't really have much options in Florence anymore. And Columbia is not that far away for us. It's about an hour 15. The parking there, covered parking, is amazing. It's right across the street. I mean, literally just steps across the street
Mhm.
to the airport. And the parking is not is it's very reasonably rated per day.
Yeah. And we have equal distance between Columbia and Myrtle Beach, and we have friends that fly to Myrtle Beach a lot. And honestly, the only benefit to going to Myrtle Beach would be if you're going to fly on Spirit and like one of their cheap flights to
Yeah.
New York or something like that.
They don't have covered parking.
They don't have covered
They're
parking. You're
yeah.
gonna walk forever. Um,
And I've heard a lot of people, we do have friends that fly out of there regularly that say that they can never catch the shuttle cart, or I think it's no more than like one of the bigger golf carts. They can never catch the shuttle cart to shuttle them in. But now we have flown out of there before on Spirit up to Cleveland, and it
mhm.
was very minimal dollars. I want to say it was no more than maybe $120 a person
Yeah.
round trip.
So I mean,
So
price wise, that's not terrible,
no,
but I mean, I'm like you. If I have to look at convenience and comfort, I'm looking at Delta out of Columbia for us. I mean, that's
yeah,
just for us personally. Um,
we've had some good experiences out of there.
but going to Sandals in St. Lucia, I didn't have a chance to talk to you about it. Um, I kind of did a podcast or so talking about my experience and what I liked, what I didn't like. What did you like the most about going there?
To St. Lucia,
Hmm.
um, I don't know. It's beautiful. As far as if I compare it to last year to Grenada, and really that's the only thing I can compare it to. Of course, we went to Montego Bay and Sandals in Montego Bay, but that was years ago. This resort was bigger than Grenada. I thought Grenada was a prettier location. I thought our room in Grenada with our swim up and our butler was better than it was in St. Lucia. Uh, In St. Lucia, I preferred the setup of the main pool right oceanfront. We didn't have that option in Grenada. So there was things about both of them that I liked better than the other. But as far as if I had to choose to go back to one, I would definitely hands down go back to Grenada, but I don't really know that I would go back to Sandals La Toc. There's other Sandals resorts that I want to see before I would, and if I was making the rounds and that one come back up, it would move down toward the bottom of my list.
Yeah, I think the biggest letdown for me was just the quality of the
The
room,
age of the
the
room,
age of the room. Yeah, the
yes.
the room is just very, very old.
As far as where the room was located, we could not have asked for any better.
Yeah, it's beautiful for
It
the
was
sunset.
it was beautiful where it was located on the grounds.
Hmm.
Having the butler take us back and forth in a air conditioned vehicle was absolutely
That was great.
perfect. But the layout of the room was fine. I just didn't like the age of the room.
Hmm.
As far as the bathroom, I know that was a situation that you talked about. I did not mind the fact that the bathroom was smaller. I mean, I'm a small person. I don't need a really huge bathroom,
But the unair conditioned
but
portion of it was one of those things that we had when we got married back in 2005 that was really terrible.
yeah,
And
I'm
this,
not a fan of an unair conditioned bathroom, and I was not a fan of their hot water system.
yeah,
That was very unreliable.
it had no rhyme or reason
Yeah.
to it. It was just on, and sometimes it was hot, and sometimes it wasn't. And if it wasn't, you froze, and if it was, you're scalding yourself.
I mean, and I get the fact that those islands have such an amazing breeze that they do things different there. I get that part of it, but we stayed in a we stayed on Grenada, which is a very small island. Actually, it's smaller than St. Lucia,
with half the population.
and their room accommodations and their hot water versus their no hot water, and the air conditions was, to me, way better in Grenada. St. Lucia, the even the air conditions during the day seemed to struggle a little bit.
Yeah. But I will say the beach was beautiful.
The beach was gorgeous in St. Lucia.
Not so much getting in the ocean. We had one day we could get in the ocean.
Yeah, we also
But we also
had
had a tropical storm
tropical
that was
storm that
beating the
we
waves to
actually
death.
didn't get bad weather from it. It just made the
It just
waves
made
a
the
lot.
waves really rough.
But as far as the actual beach and the way the main pool was situated right there, oceanfront, that was, and the waterfalls in the pool, that by far, hands down, was better than Grenada.
Did you enjoy the lava bath? The lava
Yes, a
mud
lot.
bath?
I really enjoyed that. That was really amazing to know that that water was coming out of a active volcano.
A
Um,
drive-through active
and
volcano.
a drive-through active volcano. There's only two in the world. Did he
Yeah.
say?
He said the other one was in Yellowstone.
Yellowstone. That's right.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I will have to say, in Grenada we did a tour, but we were also there with there was what, four couples, so eight of us total. So we did a tour, the eight of us. And I want to say there was another couple that got thrown in our tour group. So there was 10 people on the shuttle bus that whole day. That was a fantastic tour. But this time it was just the two of us in St. Lucia. We did a private tour instead of getting on a shuttle bus with other couples. We opted to do a private tour. That was really, really cool. Getting our own driver in our own vehicle. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And he was great.
He was great. Um, I did think it was kind of weird that he just shifted the car into low. It was automatic. He just shifted it into low and just left it there.
Well, I
And
will have to say that was probably the most mountainous place I've ever been
yeah,
to.
but it was weird to be riding in a Mercedes running 8,000 RPMs.
Yeah.
I was
That
like,
part I don't know
I was
anything
like, why
about.
does he shift it up? He's just staying in one gear the whole time. Okay.
But I don't know, their roads were so different than riding like in Asheville on the Blue Ridge Parkway
Yeah.
or in the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, they were in need of repair all the time, and it's usually because they have constant rain that's just torturing them with,
Well, yeah,
you
I
know,
guess I could say
the
it was.
ground eroding away from them, and also the vegetation that was just seeming to eat the planet all together right there, the island all together. I mean, they were constantly trying to cut back vegetation everywhere, and that constant growth onto the roads was making it so that it was, tearing up the road in parts. But
Let's see, we've seen the Blue Ridge Mountains, we've seen the Smoky Mountains, we've seen the Black Hills up in the Dakotas. And I will have to say the mountainous roads in St. Lucia were unlike anything I've ever ridden on before.
okay,
Very, I don't know. I don't know if it was the vehicle. I'm not sure what it was. It
I
seemed to
don't
be
know.
way more switchbacks than what I was accustomed to.
You have a bad memory then, because
Why?
the ones in Tennessee on the motorcycle were pretty treacherous.
Maybe it didn't seem that way because we were on a motor,
Or
because I
because
was
you
riding
were
on a motor.
riding.
Right.
Let me tell you, driving it was pretty treacherous. Also, Pikes Peak with Bicknell beside me going, man, I'm sure glad this ain't my that $70,000 vehicle on this road with no end. Going up where there's above the tree line and there's elk randomly walking up to us going, you guys lost? Yeah,
Well, now we have no more trips, get big trips scheduled for this year. We're
right.
done for this year. We have a couple little small things, just like weekend things coming up before the end of the year. Next year, let's see, so far we have a trip planned for
Jamaica.
Jamaica in April. We've rented a private home with three other couples, and we will be doing that in April. The house is oceanfront.
Is it just three other couples?
There's eight of us total.
Okay.
It's a 4 bedroom, 4 bath house that we've rented for the week, and it comes with its own private chef for the week. So this will be something totally different for us. We're looking forward to that. Not really sure what else we're going to do next year. I would love, and we've actually the other couples that we hang out with, two other couples that we hang out with regularly that live here in Florence. We've talked about a train trip to maybe Washington, D.C., because you can catch the Amtrak right here in Florence. and riding up to Washington D.C. and doing that for a couple days, maybe like a long weekend, just for maybe 4 or 5 nights. I would love to do that. We have not been to DC since our kids were early teens. I think it was 2004 or 5 that we took them up there. So I mean, it's been a long time. I would love to do that city without children, and that's something we talked about doing.
About 20 years later.
Yeah, I would love to do that whenever it's nice weather there. Like I said, there's several other trips that we have that we want to um to do. We've got some things coming up. Like I said, we're trying to figure out some things for next year
Yeah.
so that we can plan ahead. We like to plan ahead so we can do research.
Yeah. And it's good that we've gotten like a core group of friends now that travel with us on a regular
Yes,
basis. And that seems to
we all get along really well.
make the trips more enjoyable because we all can hang out and joke with one another and
Well, that's why
experience
I'm
some
looking so
sightseeing
right.
together.
The same group that we went to Grenada with is the same group that we're going to rent this home with in Jamaica. And I'm looking forward to it because we had a great time with these four couples. We had a fantastic time in Grenada. I think the private home will be even better because every evening after dinner, instead of sitting like in a commons area,
Hmm.
sitting around to talk, we can actually
Hang out.
hang out.
Yeah.
We can take some games with us because our group loves to play couple of games. We really all get into that. We're all very competitive. We laugh and have a good time. That is not really something you could do at the Sandals Resort when we were all together. So I think that will make this trip to Jamaica even more fun.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we've got plenty of time. The ladies plan on doing some research so that we can plan a couple of daytime excursions. We definitely want to climb Dunn's River Falls.
Absolutely.
You and I've done that a couple times already, but it's something that I would definitely do again.
And this time I want to do the tubing adventure.
Well, I mean, there's like I said, we want to try to plan some excursions during the day
Yeah.
to give us something to do.
I think the last time we were there, we were at a rum factory place and or distillery, and they had
Yeah.
a tubing adventure that was going by us in the river, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like fun." Everybody seemed like they were having a blast. And now that you've gone tubing,
Now that I've gone tubing,
you're like, "Okay, I could do that."
that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
That was a very fun Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, um, I do want to kind of talk about my stuff I heard because,
I was going to ask you, what have you watched good on TV lately?
well, only the best thing on TV, which is the
I know
Ahsoka series.
it's got to be Ahsoka.
Listen, she's right here.
I'm not watching that series. I hadn't even watched the first episode.
Okay, so you know how the first movie started off with in a galaxy far, far away,
Yeah,
long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
sure.
Okay, so in this one, Ahsoka is traveling with a droid named Hu Yang. Hu Yang is supposed to be thousands of years old and is supposed to have basically crafted every youngling's lightsaber in Star Wars lore. He knows all the stories. So they're traveling along inside of a Purgle, which is this giant space whale thing, going from one galaxy to another. And it's kind of a big deal because up until this point, we've only been in one galaxy as far as the Star Wars story that we've seen. So as they're traveling, they're discussing some things, and she goes, Hu Yang, tell me one of those stories like from our childhood. And he starts off and he says, well, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and it kind of trails off, and you go, wait a second, has all of these stories up to now been told by Hu Yang? Has he, because he's lived all this time and he's helped craft all these lightsabers, is he the narrator of the entire thing that we've been watching
And you just learned this last week
this
or
last
this
episode?
Tuesday? Oh,
Yep. Yep.
ooh,
Ooh,
exciting.
I know, right? So anyway, there's a new bad guy. His name is Thrawn. He's got a blue face, red eyes. He looks like a bad guy, right? Red eyes. And he's on this other planet that they go to. And while they're there, they come into contact with a group of ladies called the Night Witches, which automatically sounds terrifying, right? Night Witches. Ah. But they're supposed to be tapped into some kind of dark force energy, which is what helped the Night Sisters gain their power. It's also what helped bring Darth Maul back to life whenever he was cut in half. It's also what is believed to have a ability to bring back the dead in a different way. Now we've seen parts of this in the animated show, But here we get a live action version of it because as Thrawn is being introduced with his giant ship docking with them sitting on top of a rock face, which is pretty awesome just all by itself. But he is surrounded by stormtroopers who have a lot of age and damage on them in ways that looks like maybe they were all dead and maybe the Night Sisters have brought them all back to life. So we're going to have zombie uh, stormtroopers. So that's fun.
Zombie stormtroopers.
That's fun, right?
Got to keep it going somehow, I
What's more
guess.
fun than stormtroopers you can't kill?
You can kill zombies, can't you?
I mean, theoretically, if you're in The Walking Dead and you got a crossbow, I mean, apparently that works. But but anyway, so
So, how many more episodes of Ahsoka are left? Do you
two.
think? Okay, two.
There's two. This will not be the only season.
Oh, I wouldn't think so. I would think there
No.
would be more than one.
Not only that, but we have learned through watching different stuff on YouTube that this is going to open its way for a movie. And the movie is Heir to the Empire, which is based on a series of books. There's three books. They're going to make three movies. I'm
No
assuming
way. Three more movies?
the search for more money. I'm assuming that Thrawn is going to be the bad guy in all of them because he is the heir to the Empire, as they say.
I'm kind of shocked though. You would think that they would develop them into more of a streaming type show instead of movies.
Well, the streaming shows are going to interlap with it.
I know, but I mean, why spend the money on three movies to release at the theater?
Money.
And then they just, yes, but those movies are so expensive to make.
Yes, they are, but they also bring in a lot of money.
But I think I had heard on a podcast that whenever you see how much a movie brings in, how much a movie costs to make, let's just say, for instance, $100 million, and it brings in $100 million, or let's just say it brings in $110 million. So it looks like it's made $10 million. That's not accurate.
Right.
Because the money that they spend to promote the movie is not included in what it takes to make the movie.
It kind of is. It just depends on how they report it. Because they may make a movie for 100 million and they spend 50 on advertising and marketing and stuff, and then they'll say it costs us 150 million to make this. Sometimes they factor that in, sometimes they don't. It just depends on who's reporting it and how they report it. But I will say that coming out with a movie will put butts in the seat for at least 2.5 hours because I'm assuming this is going to be a 2.5 hour movie, especially when they have the content that they're going to cover. And it also helps the actors and the studio make back some money that they may have invested in the series that they haven't recouped yet. One of the cool things about technology is everything builds on itself. So all of the things that have been established in making the television shows, like we saw the behind the scenes of The Mandalorian with Jon Favreau, that theater that's in the round where they use the video game engine in order to produce all of the stuff that's happening. That sort of stuff just builds on itself and they make it grander and bigger all the time so that making the content in the future becomes cheaper and cheaper. So really you're paying for, after a while, you're just paying for the talent, the writing, the talent. And there's a lot of talent behind the scenes. I mean, when I'm talking talent, I'm talking all of the special effects that's going on and all that kind of thing, the costume design and so on and so forth. But I'm
Well,
really
I'm
impressed.
glad you're enjoying
I'm
Ahsoka.
impressed with the way they're taking it though. We get to see a live action Ezra Bridger, which I know you've seen a little bit of watching over my shoulder as I've watched the Rebel show, the cartoon show on the television. And we get to see her reuniting with Sabine Wren. I'm anxious to see what they're going to do in the next two episodes to move the story forward. What's going to happen with Balin Scroll? He's the new dark side, lightsaber guy. So we're going to have another confrontation at some point with Balin Scroll and Ahsoka, and I'm looking forward to seeing Sabine Wren turn from not just being a Mandalorian, but being a force wielding Mandalorian with the lightsaber. So that's going to be an interesting transition. And where's Ezra going to be in part of this story? I mean, he's got to be a huge part because they didn't bring him in here just to be a cameo standing on the side of a village going, "Hey, what's up?" We're also introduced to some little characters that kind of look like rock versions of Ewoks. They're little tiny things, and whenever they bend over, they have a shell on their back. They're called What do they call them? I wrote it down. They're called the Nati, Noti, Nati. Anyway, um, apparently Ezra can talk to them because he's been there for a while. But they're little cute little things, and they're going to be part of the story. I'm sure, just like Ewoks were. I'm going to hate them in the beginning, and then I'm going to be like, oh yeah, they're kind of cool, especially when you find out that they eat stormtroopers. But oh yeah, so also today I just noticed that Bert Kreischer's the movie The Machine is on Netflix, which I know my wife is super excited about.
Oh, yes. Yay.
You hear that enthusiasm? Now, there are a couple of comedy shows that have hit Netflix that I want to talk about. The first one being Michelle Wolf. It's Great to Be Here. Posted on Netflix this past week. It's a three-part Netflix special. I've not seen her do this before. I've not seen anybody really do this before, but it's got three different parts to it. Um, and they're done in segments where she's on tour in different places, and they just filmed while she was on tour, and they just took segments of it and reposted it. Um, it's great. It's great. I'm gonna watch it more than once. Go out and watch it. It's awesome. And also Shane Gillis. I don't know if I talked about this before, but Shane Gillis's special "Beautiful Dogs" hit last week. Another great special. Listen, comedy's out there. Go enjoy it. It's really fun in person. There are things that they put on Netflix are okay, but I can tell you, going and seeing these things in person are way better. You want to laugh with your friends. So if you find a comedian you're into, maybe find it on Netflix. Maybe take a chance on somebody you've never heard of, and go to a show. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be cheering on your favorite comedian making his own movie. So there's that.
There is that. I did hear some updates on, I don't know if you talked about them last week or not, from the D23 Expo, where they announced some of the things coming down.
Oh, they're going to make the villain
They're
land.
actually going to do, a couple things is going to happen. They're going to eventually. I know what they're doing is Disney has announced an expansion at the Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be the largest expansion to date at the Magic Kingdom, and Fantasyland was their last expansion, and it was, I think, 21 or 22 acres. This one will be even larger. It's going to be a villain's land. It's going to be situated somewhere over between the Haunted Mansion and the Big Thunder Railroad, which is fantastic. They need to do a villain's land.
Yeah.
Epic Universe is building down the street, which is Universal, and they are going to have a monsters theme land. So Disney needs to get their butts in gear to answer to what Universal is doing down the street.
I got to be honest. I think Disney has been lazy.
They have been very lazy. Now, mind you, Disney has 4 gates. Actually, they have 4 gates. They have the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios. If you count their 2 water parks, Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon, that is actually 6 gates.
Yeah.
Because Universal has 2 gates, they have Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure. They count their Volcano Bay, their water park, as a 3rd gate. So right now they have 3 gates. If you count water parks, Disney has 6.
Yeah.
Universal is now opening or in the process of building, and they are coming right along with it very fast. They will be open in 2025 with Epic Universe.
And when do we go?
As soon as it opens. I plan on being there as soon as it opens.
It's going to be really
It's going to be really cool. And Disney definitely needs to pay attention.
Yeah.
But now they announced the expansion of the land in the Magic Kingdom, which will be a villain's type land. They announced the, not necessarily expansion, but the reimagining of the Dino land in the Animal Kingdom. They're actually going to turn that into a
Indiana Jones.
No, they're going to redo the ride. The dinosaur ride is Indiana Jones, but the whole area itself, they're going to build like South America. They're going to build the Encanto house, which I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but I think that it will fit in there. They are redoing a Bug's Life is Going Away, which, as much as I love that show, it's the show that you and I go to every single time we go to Animal Kingdom because there's never a wait. I love it, but it is outdated.
So I got a question. How do you make a ride out of the Encanto house?
You don't. I don't think it's going to be a ride. I think it's just going to be
just going to be there.
Well, I'm not really sure exactly how they're going to do that. but it's supposed to be, I don't know that it will be anything that you walk through. I think that it's just going to be,
Sitting there.
well, kind of picture the temple, the temple that they have in the Mexico pavilion.
Okay, so maybe a restaurant inside,
Maybe.
and you could have things happening with the doors opening or stuff like that along the
Yes.
way. And
And it's supposed to be it's supposed to be very, very beautiful as far as the flowers and the vegetation, which I think fits in perfectly with Animal Kingdom.
yeah, well, I mean, the whole point of it was that the house was alive,
Right.
and the only real way to do that is if you have things opening and closing and turning
Yeah.
on and
I'm
stuff
not
like
really
that, and
sure why. I know
moving.
that they're replacing A Bug's Life with it said that they're reimagining that to be a Zootopia experience.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure why they didn't opt to do Dino Land, redo that, reimagine that as something Zootopia Land or something like that. I'm not really sure what their thinking is on that.
I don't think there's as much hype behind Zootopia as
Maybe
you
that's what
think.
it is. Maybe that's what it is. And Encanto did so well at the box office and on streaming. It did really well.
Well, they could do something with Coco as well in
And I
that South
think that
American
that's
area.
exactly what they're planning to do. Is they're planning to do more of a South American type theme where they
Mm-hmm.
can do Encanto and the Coco.
Mm-hmm.
So that would they take care of two of their
You
IPs
could have
right
a
there.
festival for the Day of the Dead. That'd be really cool.
Exactly. I think that that's what they're thinking along the lines of. Now, they say that they will use the dinosaur ride to bring Indiana Jones, but and more like the Temple of Doom, which was set in the South American jungles.
Hmm.
That's the way they're going to reimagine that ride. I'm all for a dinosaur becoming something different.
They need another ride like Guardians of the Galaxy.
I just don't see them spending that kind of
That's
money.
so cool.
Maybe they'll do that over in the villains land.
I tell you, if we were annual pass holders and we were there, I would want to ride that
Yeah.
every chance we get.
I'm trying to think of what else came out of D360. I mean uh, D23 Expo. They were bringing Figment. Oh, they're bringing Figment. He's a new walk around character now that has meet and greets. They are reimagining Test Track. They're going to close Test Track and completely give it an overhaul. I agree, it needs it. The other reason that I've heard is it's happening because Chevrolet's 10-year contract is up.
Oh,
Whether or not Chevrolet is going to re up for another 10 years, but it has not been reimagined since 2012.
well, and there also has to be an answer for the fact that they're moving their production line more and more towards electric
Well,
vehicles. So maybe they're going to address that in this reimagining.
I know that I did hear on a podcast that the Chevrolet 10-year contract is up, and that's why they're reimagining that ride. I do not, for the life of me, understand why they have not done anything at the Imagination Pavilion.
It would be a total shame if Tesla were to get a hold of that pavilion and make it
I would much
their
rather
own.
see Tesla get a hold of the Autotopia thing at the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, but think about how cool it would be if like you're in the waiting queue and you have, Elon Musk talking about the steps that they took in order to make the thing safe and the technology that went into it
True.
along the way. I mean, there's a lot of things they could do like when you're in the waiting queue to show you how they built these cars and how safe they are and how all the things they've done to make them better.
It, regardless, we're going to get something different there, which
Yeah,
will be good. And the last pavilion that needs some work, needs some reimagining. I don't understand why they won't spend some money on the Imagination Pavilion, which is over on the side with the land and the seas with Nemo. They have not spent any money on that pavilion since well after opening.
like they're waiting for somebody else to
I'm
to
not really
spend the money.
sure. I do know that the Moana encounter, water encounter, has opened to the public. I've heard people on podcasts say that it is very nice to have all of that. What used to be concrete is now really nice, lush vegetation, some great interactive water features. So I'm looking forward to seeing that the next time we go.
Well, and I've always felt that middle part there,
Was just nothing but hot
it's
asphalt
just hot asphalt.
or concrete. But
And they
now,
needed vegetation
yes.
and a water feature. I
Yeah.
mean, they tried to do the water feature before with the giant fountain thing, but
Well, that was more like
that
the
was more for
Bellagio.
water
That was more
show.
like the Bellagio fountains.
Yeah.
This one is more interactive from what I understand. You can actually, it's kind of like small children can walk through it. I mean, because let's face it, it's super hot down there all the time,
Yep.
almost all the time.
And it's a people eater.
Yes.
They can cool off. It's a people eater. That means more times that I can ride Guardians of the Galaxy and they're not in my line. So, yay.
But yeah, they have announced that, of course, they have D23. I'm not sure if it's yearly or every other year. So you have to announce something.
Mm-hmm.
But as much as I am a fan of Disney, I love to go. I could go all the time. They do need to up their game
Yeah.
because Universal, these last few expansions for Universal have been fantastic.
Well, and the tie-in with Nintendo Land is going to be
Yes.
huge
Yes.
because Nintendo's got that stupid money.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I've heard rumor that there's another company trying to buy Nintendo, and I don't know if that'll actually
I don't
pan
know.
out, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's gonna.
I think Epic Universe that they're building down the road is 2 miles or no more than 3 miles from Universal and Islands of Adventure.
Mhm.
It is really going to be state of the art. It is going to be fantastic. It's going to have Monsters Land. It's going to have How to Train Your Dragon. It's going to have a Harry Potter type Ministry of Magic area, and then it's going to have Nintendo Land. And
Mhm.
then the middle section, or like the main hub, is going to be, I think, more like a space theme. They're building new hotels. They're building 3 new hotels there in that area. It's going to be really nice. And I do keep up, I watch pretty much every couple of weeks an update on the construction. I am totally blown away with how fast they are moving on construction there. They
Yeah.
must have every construction worker in the state, every construction company in the state of Florida is working on that expansion.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. Come on, Disney. We need something new.
Yeah.
I need you to wow us again.
Listen, again, I'm impressed with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, we need
Very,
another.
very cool.
Well,
And
Guardians of the Galaxy, the
I'm sure it wasn't cheap.
Ratatouille, Pandora, Flight of Avatar, all of those, the last few
Rise of
things
the
you've
Resistance.
done, they have been awesome.
Rise of the Resistance was
Yes.
really cool, but it keeps breaking down. Now it's turning into Fred Sanford's uh, Star Wars tour. They really got to fix that. That's too cool to screw up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you could have went even bigger with Star Wars Land. Not that I'm pissed off about the way it looks. It's just you could have gone way bigger. And I hope you do go bigger, please, for me. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all I've got too.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry, my wife's off camera.
Oh,
She
that's
has a
okay.
strict NDA policy that says she cannot be on screen under certain circumstances. So
Yeah, I have a non-compete clause.
I actually have her tied up in the corner here. You can't see that part.
I signed a non-compete clause.
I told her the only way she gets out of those knots is if she gets on the podcast
I
and at least
don't
talks.
yeah.
So, thank you for listening. Please remember to take a moment and help rate, review, subscribe us, share us with your friends. And as always,
Cue the cow, baby.
Cue the cow. Moo, baby.